Hey everyone, welcome back to the Neurologic Wellness Podcast. Today we are joined by Adam and Kyla Pierce of Love Your Brain. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Of course. And I cannot wait to hear about your organization and all the good work you're doing for TBI survivors. Before we get too deep into that, though, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got involved with Love Your Brain, and I guess then ultimately what is Love Your Brain for those who don't know?
Sure. Adam, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll give a quick overview of kind of what got us here. Almost 13 years ago, my younger brother, Kevin Pierce, was a professional snowboarder and on his way to what we thought was going to be a gold medal at the Vancouver Winter Olympics, and ended up sustaining a traumatic brain injury in a training just a few weeks before that. And anyways, that kind of, put us down a pathway that we had no idea of, what traumatic brain injury entailed, and quickly found out that it was a long, arduous process, and one though that, Kevin had just an incredible healing process and we ended up creating a documentary called The Crash Reel that kind of showed just, the incredible healing journey he was on, and a lot of our family support, and kind of, and ended up creating a documentary that went around the world and created a lot of awareness just around the prevalence of brain injury, the complexity. And then we after doing that, recognized the need of holistic based support for people dealing with traumatic brain injury. So we established Love Your Brain as a foundation nearly 9 years ago. And I'll let Kyla speak to kind of what Love Your Brain is and what kind of programs we offer.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Adam. So Love Your Brain as a nonprofit, we offer programs rooted in really seeing the whole, the importance of serving the whole person. So neurologically, as your audience well knows, physically, socially, and behaviorally. So all of our programs include different strategies for supporting all dimensions of how somebody could really be impacted after traumatic brain injury, as well as their caregivers. So I'm happy to talk more in depth about the programs that we offer. But at this point, we are offering community-based programs online and in person for people impacted by traumatic brain injury, either through their lived experience or as part of their family.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Addressing all of those facets of TBI is so crucial because all of those facets are affected by it. So can we take maybe those one by one, and then you can talk about the different programs that are available through Love Your Brain. So I think one of them that you mentioned was the social aspect of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So when Love Your Brain was founded, actually our first program was a retreat. So it was a holistic health immersion in Vermont that was really designed to combat the social isolation that is so common after brain injury. And we know actually in more recent research that social isolation has similar, if not greater magnitude of impacts to one's health than obesity, smoking, physical inactivity. So ultimately, it really takes a big toll on somebody's health, which is further exacerbated if somebody's experiencing a traumatic brain injury. So really the hope was bringing people together into a space that supported a sense of validation and connection through what one's shared experiences, but then also wove in different practices like yoga and meditation to help reconnect mind and body.
Mm-hmm.
So one of our programs that's since been evolved, and we've manualized it, created a curriculum, and actually produced some research looking at the effectiveness on different health outcomes that I can talk about later if people are interested in research. But this program started in Vermont and now is offered in Maine as well as Colorado, and is now a 5-day holistic health retreat that not only includes different modalities for creating a sense of community, but also includes other brain health focus interventions like brain health nutrition. Still,
Mhm.
we have a strong emphasis on movement through yoga and other mindful walking and other practices like that. But really trying to break down the sense of isolation that is so common after brain injury, which can lead people to feeling like something's wrong with them when really this is an opportunity to investigate what has changed and where is their agency to find a way forward. And really, you can't do that if you're alone. It's so important to feel connected and have conversation and learn from each other's perspectives.
Right, exactly. That is wonderful. That is a great uh asset that you can provide to these people, or opportunity that you can provide to TBI survivors. I know, speaking probably for my patients who might be listening to this, or people in the post-concussion TBI space, things that get kind of difficult are loud sounds, bright lights, a lot of motion and things like that. What are some steps that you guys take in order to make sure that that is a calming and restorative environment for those individuals?
Yeah, it's a great question, Joe. And we're very thoughtful about the sensory stimuli, knowing that light sensitivity or sound sensitivity, or just the kind of emotional regulation factor of being in a large group setting can have. So at our retreats, we do things like having certainly controlling the light so that there's not drastic changes in light. We have a lot of blinds, especially in the residential, like sleeping accommodation setting. But I think more in our yoga program, which is a program where we bring people into community spaces and teach an evidence-based 6-week series that blends yoga as well as community building through different types of psychoeducation and conversation. So in those settings, we're really mindful about not using, for instance, music. So if you go into a yoga studio, often they're pumping really loud music. So
Hmm.
having either no music or low instrumental music, certainly being mindful about the amount of light and not changing the light too quickly, and really ensuring that there's trauma informed practices where people are finding techniques to ground themselves using slower instruction so that there is this sense of um, just consistency and safety, predictability, and control instead of things moving too quickly.
Hmm. And yeah, that's so important, and that's so great that you guys have taken the steps to ensure a safe and a comfortable experience for your participants. Um, and it
Mm.
sounds like another one of the facets that Love Your Brain addresses is the physical component, which you mentioned earlier. And then it sounds like even on the retreat, there's yoga and other things like that. What are some other ways that Love Your Brain is improving the physical component of TBI?
Yeah, well, I think one of the early kind of learnings for us was really through Adam's brother Kevin's experience with
Hmm.
yoga. So that was a real entry point for him in his rehabilitation journey, but also in his kind of community reintegration pathway. So Kevin found yoga as not only a practice where he was able to feel a sense of kind of vitality and confidence in his body through improving balance and functional mobility, but also really with the mind body connection of turning inward and building awareness to help with regulating behaviors or emotions or impulses. So, a large emphasis on our programming is weaving in different mindful movement practices, mostly through yoga at this point. Um, but seeing that we all have a body and so much changes with our bodies after traumatic brain injury, that can be a really helpful pathway for rebuilding also awareness around how to deal with discomfort or how to deal with things that are challenging, how to deal with things changing in a way that we don't want them to.
Hmm.
So not only is are our programs designed to help with the kind of important kind of basics of physical health, like balance and um, functional movement, but also really looking to how to be in better relationship or to be in more skillful relationship with our bodies to
Mhm.
help us move through change, which when there's so much change that happens after TBI. So yoga's because it's a practice that blends mind body awareness.
Mhm.
That's why we feel and have seen and have also shown through our research that it not only helps with physical health but also other dimensions of health.
Mhm.
S-
Yeah, and we also find it's a particularly accessible physical activity because often with TBI, eyes can be challenged or
Mhm.
headaches and other kind of physical stimulus that can sometimes exacerbate those symptoms.
Mhm.
Yoga seems to have a really um, a kind of a multidimensional access point where doesn't matter where you are in your kind of physical abilities, there
Mhm.
seems to always be a place where you can um, kind of push your boundary a little bit in terms of um, yeah, how much or kind of how far you can go with the kind of physical space. So
Mhm.
yeah, in that regard, it really um, yeah, just it provides a big access point for almost everyone.
Yeah, yoga is, I mean, it's great for the adaptability. I mean, people of all different skill levels and symptom levels, and like you said, there's the entry point for for most people, or it can be adapted to most people. So that's such a great tool that you're using. What are I think you mentioned earlier that you had some research on health outcomes and things like that. So what have some of those outcomes been that you've seen? What are some of the positive things that people have experienced?
Yeah, so at this point, we've published almost 8 studies, some of which
Mhm.
have looked at the effectiveness of our programming. And really, our mission is to improve the lives of people impacted by traumatic brain injury, um, and improve quality of life through programs that support resilience and community connection. So, one of our health outcomes that we measure is actually resilience as well as quality of life. So we've seen all of our programs, so our retreat program, our in-person yoga program, and also our online yoga program, all have improved quality of life. Resilience. So resilience is one's ability to adapt to difficulty and find a way to move forward. So people are coming through a program and feeling a greater sense of agency and empowerment to move forward.
Mhm.
We also measure cognition. So that involves memory, information processing, and have found improvements in cognition, emotional behavioral dysregulation. There's been some variability, but some of our programs have been shown to improve one's ability to regulate emotions. And then finally, positive affect. So looking at our people's mood generally improving by coming through our programs, and also generally there is improvement there.
Mhm.
So our research, though, I will share is it's pre-post without a control group.
Mhm.
So they're usually on pretty large study samples, for instance. So one of our studies was actually the largest study looking at the impacts of yoga in the traumatic brain injury population. And then we since published one that looked at online yoga and mindfulness programming for the TBI population. So that was the first ever study there. And have over 1,000 participants in each of those studies. So feel proud that we were
Yeah.
able to contribute to the literature in that way and are seeing positive trends overall.
Yeah, that's very strong studies that you've done. And are those accessible on your website?
Yeah, we have a research section of our website that not only
Mhm.
shares some of our research, but also points to some other research that's in this field so that others who are interested in looking at integrative health practices like yoga and mindfulness can see them in one place. So, yep, they're all on our website.
Excellent. And so since the Love Your Brain has been around for about 9 years now, I'm sure things have changed or things have gotten more efficient as far as how you might, you know, help somebody essentially. So I guess what I'm trying to ask or articulate is, uh, what were some of the struggles that you saw Kevin experiencing after his injury, and then looking back on it now after what you know, what are some things you may have done differently? So maybe if somebody's listening to this and they are a recent TBI sufferer, what are some things that you might tell them to help their recovery process be that much smoother?
Well, I think we were fortunate to feel like we had a lot of support and direction towards things that worked, and I think that's partly why Kevin's made such incredible progress.
Mhm,
But I think the kind of three areas that I would highlight for anyone going through it to think about um, are you doing things that are specifically targeting your mind and focusing on kind of supporting a balanced mind? Are you doing things that are targeting the physical body and the physical sense, and then also that social piece? And those are the three main areas that anyone can kind of like carve out and think about, like what daily are they doing to ensure that all three of those areas are being taken care of. And kind of within that, then there's like nutrition was a big one. Coming,
mhm,
we were in inpatient hospital settings for about 6 months, and um, I think for anyone who's been in that position, the quick realization that food is not a priority at these hospitals is
mhm,
apparent, and recognizing also how important it is to feed our brain the proper nutrients and things that allow it to heal and activate is like essential. So I would absolutely encourage people to pay attention to their diet. Removing sugars is like a very easy one to start with. um, yeah, and really looking at things that enhance our brain's function is really important. um, and then yeah, I think like just again the importance of social connection. I don't think we can underestimate how important that is, and also in our current healthcare system it's often not at the top priority. But I really think that as we evolve as a society, we're going to start to see that as such a pivotal part of our process. And knowing that TBI can be a lifelong injury and kind of healing journey, when often when we see people leave the hospital settings, there isn't that bridge to community reintegration and a support group. So um, just ensuring that people know that yeah, Love Your Brain exists is specifically for that is really important, because um, yeah, the social support is is instrumental in all the ways that yeah, someone is faced with different challenges.
mhm. Yeah.
Anything to add, Kai?
No, that was really well said.
It was.
Yeah, I think the only maybe other piece is I think a strong emphasis on ours has um, really been trying to create an atmosphere where people can not only meet themselves where they're at and so acknowledge what is difficult, be with what is negative, but also see that that's not the end of the story. And so, to Adam's point around immersing yourself with other people who have been impacted by TBI,
Mhm,
it really provides this rich opportunity to examine how you are relating to your healing journey. And
mhm,
through that, there can be just really great learnings and personal growth that comes from that. And so I think sometimes, um, I mean, we hear a lot of people who come to our programs and just say, we wish we had been connected to these types of programs earlier on in our healing,
mhm,
because it's so easy to get stuck in just the difficulty of things changing.
mhm.
And how then can we support people earlier on to see that that's one piece, but this is a long journey and there's different tools and ways of really transforming one's life through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think piggybacking off of that, and then something that was mentioned earlier, and that many people who sustain TBI do feel a sense of isolation. And I think a lot of that comes from most people around them probably can't empathize or understand because it's an invisible issue essentially.
Mm.
Um, so given the current state of TBI in the world, or at least TBI responsiveness, what do you think needs to happen, kind of on more of a macro scale, uh, so that people don't feel that initial isolation, or people feel more seen, I guess, um, and they don't feel like they have to fight it alone?
A great question. Hmm.
Yeah, like more research, more like outreach, more community awareness. 'Cause I know you have a great organization. Our organization is doing very similar goals in mind, right? Like trying to improve the lives of these patients. So yeah, it's just curious what you guys think needs to change in the world for better outcomes.
Well, it absolutely starts to some extent with awareness. So,
Hmm.
really trying to ensure that the experience of traumatic brain injury is one that, from a school level all the way up to other different like industries, is there's just more awareness around it
Hmm.
because it's so prevalent. What can we do to better educate educators in the school system, as well as other industries, to make sure that people understand that concussion and brain injury, if you don't think you know somebody, you actually do, and then how to
Hmm.
support somebody in the immediate, um, and then how to really shift the healthcare system so that
Yeah.
it is better integrated and practices that. I mean, it's so siloed at this point that I don't know how to change that, but
Hmm.
certainly there's a need to make sure that the right people are talking to the right people on a medical team, because at this point that kind of multidisciplinary support is really hard to find.
Yeah, it's a big question, it's a big problem, and there's not going to be a simple answer, simple solution, but yeah.
Yeah, I
But
mean, one thing I know just an opportunity as well is, we try and do a lot of outreach with different
Mhm.
advocacy organizations, and we've done some research actually with adapting our curriculum for people with multiple sclerosis.
Mm.
And the MS Society, there's a really well-funded, um, kind of activated advocacy network for multiple sclerosis, and the Brain Injury Association and Brain Injury Alliances are doing the best they can, but there's not kind of as robust of an advocacy network for brain injury. So I know there's a lot of organizations that are really working towards that, like the National Association for Head Injury, NASHA, but there's just more that can be done, and a huge piece of that is funding. So
Mhm.
how to get our federal and state governments to better resource what is a real public health crisis in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah, honestly. Yeah. Well, the work you two are doing is, definitely moving the needle in the right direction. So, I'm sure everyone thanks you for the positive work that you're contributing to society. And if someone is listening to this right now and they really want to get involved, or they really want to help out with what you guys are doing in your mission, how would they find you? How would they reach out?
Probably the best way to get involved with us is to visit our website, which is loveyourbrain.com. And we always have different programs that are open for registration. We also have a free yoga and meditation library that people can sign up for, and have access to over 100 meditation and yoga practices specifically designed to support brain injury. We have great volunteer opportunities that are in-person retreats. And we also have a network of clinicians through our clinical connector program, where clinicians can kind of, to your point, be in partnership with us to better advocate in their clinical spaces for the importance of integrating holistic health practices into clinical practice. So we really work a lot with the clinical space to try and shape the way they're delivering healthcare.
Mhm.
There's also a space that anyone can donate. And I say that just because we, one of our main initiatives is fundraising so we can make these programs accessible. And
Mhm.
we're really proud to offer programs at the quality we do that are at no cost for participants. So, and the only way we do that is through incredible generosity and support from people who show up and donate and make that possible. So it's another area we're always welcome to support.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And if do you have any final words of advice or hope for those listening right now who might be going through it, the early stages or middle stages?
Yeah, it's such a great question. One that I always come back to that um, Kevin really, I felt like, lived by was the phrase, "You can't rush your healing."
Hmm.
So often we are, you know, we're trying so hard to get back to the version of the person we were before the accident,
Hmm.
and often that is either not possible in that moment, or over time that's not necessarily going to look that way. So we really emphasize using the word resilience, bouncing back to either a new form or a new version of self, rather than thinking of it as recovery, which can kind of infer to returning to what was. So those are two kind of big principles we live by, which is, you can't rush your healing, and you got to take it day by day and continue to work slowly but over time, to see big improvements. And then really thinking about this as um, who am I now, and what is this new version of me look like, and how can I, be a better version than what I was.
Hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, like, we're here to provide hope too, because we have seen so many miraculous stories where you would just never imagine a person going from having to relearn how to walk and talk to, living independent, having a family, um, and just living a fulfilled life. So there's so much possibility if you can integrate the right tools and surround yourself with great people.
Yeah, and I think that is very wise, especially considering this population, because not every brain is different, so every recovery is going to be different. So having that patience throughout that process to just kind of love your brain, accept yourself, and then do your best to get to a better place, essentially. Yeah, I love that. Well, Kyla and Adam, this has been fantastic. I loved learning about Love Your Brain today. I really appreciated the advice and wisdom and knowledge that you were able to bring to our audience. Really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to create more awareness and hopefully support more people.
Of course. All right. And this has been your host from the Neuro Wellness Podcast. Be well.